Hey, Gamecock fans, welcome back to Alumni Game. Much better week this week. Feeling much better. Feeling competitive. I, for one, very much enjoyed the first half of the Texas A&M game. In my opinion, that is what we could have looked like all year. I do know nothing was going A&M's way, and that's usually not our style. It's usually like everything comes down on us. But here at Alumni Game, we're feeling much better. We don't have Buster this week. He had his house kind of sprung a leak, and he's got some work to do on the roof. So we wish him well there. We'll definitely have him back next week. But you got Michael Ritchie, class of '06, Sam Niedermeyer, class of '06. We're here to bring you a recap of A&M, a kind of State of the Union a little bit about where we're at right now with only a couple games left and what we can achieve, how we're feeling about things, and then getting into this Coastal game this week, a little mini in-state rivalry with Coastal Carolina. So, um, Sam, I'll check in here. I know you have a different opinion on the game than I do, but just overall, what you saw in the first half, the second half, the changes that we talked about in last. Check out last week's episode if you guys missed,
Yes.
where we talked about some coaching changes with South Carolina. But just impressions from an A&M game that was much different than a lot of other games.
Even when we were up 30-3, I knew we were gonna lose.
Yeah.
I just had that feeling. Like last year against Texas A&M, even when we were tied at halftime, I was like, we're not gonna lose this game. Last year against Missouri, we're not gonna lose this game. Right? Like I had all this feeling. This year, it's the complete opposite. Yeah, we're definitely gonna lose. It's the old Carolina again.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I think whatever the game is, it doesn't have to be Carolina, but a first half is a first half, and it's only half of the game. So I literally thought to myself, well, if everything that happened in the first half our way goes the other way, then they'll
Yes.
win, or
Other
will
shoe's
at
gonna
least
drop.
tie, and then in a tie they'll win because they're at home
Yep.
and they're the better team. And make no bones about it, they're the better team. Um, 9 times out of 10, we lose that game. The 10 out of 10 is because the wind blows a different way or something. But I will say, for me, with the change at OC with Furry, and I'm a full-blown Furry now. I'll start dressing up. I'll do the whole thing. I really like
Yeah.
this guy. I love the idea of a guy in-house being able to earn it over the next few games, possibly being able to stick for next year. I think that's totally possible. Um, Given Shane's inability to sort of hire correctly or at least make those guys stick, I think showing someone from inside who can turn it around and make it work. For me, had a great game plan, executed the scripted stuff at the beginning, got lucky on defense a little bit. Defense played well, played opportunistically. A&M is the better team, is probably the better coach team. I thought they did overlook us a little bit. Wholly a trap game. And then when
hmm
they started talking about that new deal that the A&M coach has for 6 years and all these millions, I was like, that coach was focused on his new deal this week. He wasn't focused on South Carolina. Look at what happened in the first half. Now, very proud team with 100,000 people in that stadium. They went in the locker room. They came up with a plan. They executed, and we dropped the ball, literally, like again and again and again.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
the thing that's frustrating is you have all these turnovers in the first half. You get all these turnovers and you're only getting field goals out of it, right? Like that's how I kind of knew the game was going to be over. The four turnovers. I don't think Texas A&M had a turnover in the second half. They had four in the first half, right? The
Yeah.
defense forced that many, and the offense still can't score touchdowns. We had
Yeah.
that
And,
long
and they
80,
got
80-yard
sloppy.
bomb, and it wasn't
Yeah.
even an
So
80-yard bomb to Nick Harbor. It was like right over the middle, and then Nick Harbor did the rest. I've Go ahead. I've got some a critique
Well,
of
I'm glad you brought up the Nick Harver catch because there's a fun button on the end of that, and we'll talk
yeah.
about
We'll get
that.
there in a second.
Look, we didn't do a lot of things. A lot of times we go back to Beamer's keys, and I'm not going to flash keys up and do all that because it's not a happy time. But third
It's
down, 4 of 15, not going to get it done. Now they were
terrible.
2 of 11 on third down, so but it's apples and oranges to me. Fourth down, 1 of 3, and they were 2 of 2, so they kept those fourth downs going.
That's because they
Um,
were converting on first and second down in the
yes,
second
yes,
half. They
you're
weren't even
100%
getting
right.
the
Yeah.
third down in the second half.
Um, Passing, you're basically 50%. Yards per pass were barely 9 and only one interception. So for me, a little short, and he did make a lot of mistakes, Sellers. So I like that against a very good team. Rushing wise was fairly decent in that we got 120 yards, but on 33 attempts. Um,
120 yards is not good. It's not going to cut in the
no, but
SEC.
where
It's
they
just
only
not.
had 64, you know what I mean? It's apples to oranges though. Um, The penalties is what got me. 8 for 83, right? That is where you're on the road, you're in the SEC against number three. You just can't be doing that. You know you can't. You do anything else but that. So that kind of got me. Everything else, we played fairly clean with the ball, but too conservative. Didn't game plan for their changes into the second half, and basically didn't account that Marcel Reed will turn it around 100% from what he did in the first half to the second half. Kudos to them. The one thing I will not stand for that I have seen, and Gamecock fans, bear with me for just a second. I saw fans saying, "I'd rather lose 100-0 than lose like this." No, that's not true. That's not the way you move forward and get better. You played number three excellent in the first half. You douched it in the second half. Okay. But
Yeah.
100-0 means we're not even ever in that game and there's no excitement and nobody even watches. Can't have that. Do you want to be the team that had the biggest comeback ever against you? No, you don't. But it's a footnote in history right now. Just like another note we'll get to in this game. But you want to be playing well even if you lose the game. That's how you take it in the next week. That's how you take it in the next year. That's how possibly Furry sticks as a coach. So this thing about, oh, it hurts so bad. You and I both knew at halftime that A&M could totally come back and maybe win. That they actually did surprised me just a little bit because of the dearth of comeback that it was. Um, but did it ultimately surprise me given what we've been through as Carolina fans? No, no. And what this team has been through this year? No. But I will say that first half to me gave me a glimpse of what we could have been this year if Shula hadn't been a part of this program, I think. And I think Buster would agree with me, and he'd be talking about that right now if he were here.
I like that take as far as it comes to a positive take. I do. I think that makes sense because the offense seemed to click a little bit more. There's definitely some longer scores.
Mhm.
Uh, Lenore Sellers just does not look good. He really doesn't. I don't want to. Maybe it was a change in coordinators. Maybe it was Mike Shula in his head for last year, but he just doesn't look like the guy that we thought he was
No.
going to be, and it's a shame. The only thing I'm hoping for is that he comes back because his stock
Yeah,
is
I'm
going
kind of
down,
feeling
right?
that. I mean, we'll
No,
talk about that in another episode. Maybe we even
yeah,
have an episode on that, depending on Buster's take on that.
we'll talk about that
But given the
later.
way the season's gone, given where he's at, given where he would project to go with maybe without a bowl game, in terms of his work for the draft, like yeah, and that's kind of funny, Sam, because there was a lot of talk this past weekend about where the draft is next year and how much activity was happening in that city over the weekend. Dude, Pittsburgh was humming this past weekend with
I,
that game day on Saturday and the Pitt game, and then Pitt gives it away. Steelers game where Rodgers goes down and all this other shit happens, and then they're talking about the draft early
I,
next
I
year.
would, I would
Jesus,
look.
could more football be happening in that city?
There's an episode that we did earlier this year, right? I think it was the episode where we talked about like where does the floor and the ceiling for the team on the offense, and at least in the offense, and we did the wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks, and I said, hey man, I want Lenore Sellers to be a Steeler. I listen, if he was pro, I think that would still be good, but he's still a little bit of a work in progress, and I don't
Yeah.
know if it has to
He
do with like
wouldn't, if
the
he did get drafted anywhere, he would not start next year. He
yeah, he
wouldn't
would
have the
not.
problems
So
that Shador Sanders is having, but
you might as well stay in South Carolina for another year. I would hope that's the case as a fan. That being said, um, man, didn't it feel like we had the ball for maybe 30 seconds in the second half?
it really did. I just felt like they
It's like
kept having the ball, and every
I've been
time they
trying to look
score,
up
it was
stats to see like what was the time of possession for us in the second half. I still haven't found them yet. I just didn't start looking until about 3 minutes ago. But it just feels like didn't convert any third downs on in the second half. Didn't run the ball. Texas A&M, I felt like had the ball the entire second half. Like you're not going to win games. It's too much on the defense. It's just too much on the
technically,
defense.
I don't have it by half, but it's dead even in terms of total time of possession.
That's because we
29-44
had
for
the ball
us,
for most of the half, first
30-16 for them.
half.
Now, given how many times they turned it over in the first half and how long we had the ball in the second half, yes, they had the
Exactly.
ball. Now, the biggest thing about that for me in terms of a collapse, which it was, I think when you look at this game, did we lose the game or did A&M win the game? I think 70 to 80% A&M won the game
It's a
and 20 to 30% we lost the game. Now,
it's a good question.
technically looking in the mirror, South Carolina would say we full on lost the game because you had the lead and there were ways that you could have done differently in the second half. But I think the most concerning thing, for thinking about the last few games we have is that almost every week, even if we're getting beat by ranked teams, we've been saying that, well, the defense was good. Well, the second half, like, no. It wasn't.
Yeah,
So
but like, okay, so let me to be look, I don't mean to interrupt you. Well,
no, no,
yes,
no, no.
actually, yes, I do mean to interrupt you.
Yeah,
Like
please.
the defense, like, okay, they gave up that first drive for a touchdown. That was kind of to be expected, right? You knew A&M was to come out with new scripted drives.
Yeah.
But if the offense can't convert on third downs and move the chains once, like at what point do we hold the defense accountable? Or sorry, at what point do we hold the offense accountable and be like, yo, the defense gave up a lot of points because the offense can't move one first down?
Oh, they definitely in tandem. Takes two to tango here for sure. And it was a full blown collapse everywhere. I mean, you don't give up the biggest comeback ever in the SEC
And it
without
was only one
everybody.
turnover on offense.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they just they had 300 yards in the first half, I think, or 299, something like that. And then what, 87, 88 in the second half? Like, come
Yeah.
on.
And then total yards for A&M surpasses 500.
Right.
Nobody can give up 500 yards and think about winning.
Y-
But if but you're right, the turnover margin, but I think then you throw in the penalties on top of that. So they had
Yep.
500, then they got another 80 in penalties. So now they're almost at 600. Plus our offense can't get off of three and out. So they're literally just getting the ball. I mean, the offense just the only thing you were maybe worried if you're A&M, the offense going to be too tired because they have too
Yep.
much to do. Um, so I look, we don't
Too
have to
tired.
go. We've hit a lot
Too
of it.
high?
I do think again, first half, what did I see they liked? I saw a lot of Fuller. I saw some of Dingle. I saw a lot of things that I asked for last week. Granted, it was only in the first half. We are not going to play a team like this the rest of the year, no matter what happens. So it's literally the best team we'll face until next year. I think there's a lot to learn. I think Furry learned a lot. I think he will apply that. I'm looking forward to more Furry. You know, now well, I don't mean to close the book on A&M, and if there's anything else you want to get to there, we can. I think we do have some other notes there,
A&M's
which we
good. They're a
probably
good
should.
team. They're a top three
Um,
team.
yeah, exactly. Now look, I'll just get to it because I'm not feeling this subject, but I do get it. Hold on, I'm a little mixed up in our notes here. All right. So with the regression, we kind of talked about that. We know what we did in the first half offensively. We did nothing in the second half. We got to get more rhythm. That's going to be on the play callers. That's going to be on the OC. So I'm definitely going to put that on. I definitely going to look much more harshly, no matter what the score is at halftime this week. What does Furry do coming out of the half? What changes does he make? What do we see? That halftime thing is going to be a big thing for me looking at Furry. Um, Aside from that, how are we feeling about coaching right now? I mean, are you feeling like that was bad enough for the second half on defense that something else has to happen on defense now too?
No, no, not
Okay.
defense. I
Okay.
personally don't feel like the defense is the problem. It has been. I think the defense has actually performed exceptionally this year. I think the offense has been awful. Like, right, the
Yeah.
only reason we
And
won
I
three
get it. You
games
said
is
it
because of the
before. Your
defense.
offense goes three and out every single time in the second half. What can you
Yeah, like
expect
you're
them to
putting too
do?
much on. That's not fair.
Yeah.
They can't stop every single like it's unreasonable to say it in college football. You can't stop every drive, and they've stopped quite a few drives. Like they have. It's definitely offense. You know, there's new offensive coordinator. Lenoris has been through now two offensive coordinators, three offensive coordinators in 2 years. That's going to take a toll on you at some point. I hope it hasn't destroyed him. I'd like to see some growth out of him.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where I'll leave it.
Yeah. So, this is the segment I was talking about. I don't know that I feel this, but I do feel like it's a discussion because it is happening with fans. But where is the program at? Have we hit a bottom or a rock bottom? I personally don't think so. We lost this game by 1 point. Granted, the way we lost it, right? But it is still number three, and you're on the road with 100,000 fans. So I don't see how it's definitely low, and it makes us feel bad, but I don't see how it's rock bottom. I do think when you take the stats raw and you say like we're the bottom everywhere, sure. Again, we played number three, the team that could ascend
Yeah.
to an SEC champion and possibly number one if somebody slips, right? Um, I mean, I don't think that's going to happen. Ohio State looks pretty good, but your notes here do sell the story, and I do agree with this. Bottom tier in the SEC, no real spark anywhere, including with Lenoris. He's not doing any Houdini tricks. He's not, he's basically having one big play a game, or less. And I didn't even see this. Maybe you should wax on this a little bit, but some frustration in the locker room. I'm just reading this for the first time about Clayton White and Shane Beamer.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true. It comes from a website called Bro Bible. So take that with you what you will. I imagine that there's a little bit of clickbait involved on there, but apparently there was some rumors that maybe they were fighting. I tend to believe they both dismissed it and said it was nothing. I tend to believe that, but maybe people are just making stuff up right now. You know how the 24-hour news cycle
Yeah,
works.
exactly,
In
exactly.
terms of this being rock bottom, it better be rock bottom. This better be the
Oh,
rock
meaning that
bottom.
we won't go any lower.
I
Yeah.
hope not, right? Like I think it is. And the reason I think it is because we got Coastal next. Now we lose the Coastal next week. That's it. It's rock bottom. And then like
Yeah, I
okay,
mean that's the thing. That's
burn
for
it
me, that's why
down.
it's not rock. It is a bottom,
Yeah.
maybe bikini bottom, you know.
Yeah.
Um
Oh, that would be nice, actually. Um, I just don't think we're going to lose the Coastal. We are an upset alert, don't get me wrong, but I just don't think it's going to happen. So
yeah.
I'm hoping this is the rock bottom, and this is the rock bottom because, like you said, it's a whole new season next year. I don't think we make a bowl game, obviously, because now we have a losing season. And as good as the SEC is, I just don't see us getting into an outside chance there. So
Yeah,
our
for
bowl game is
me,
Clemson, and
how well
I
we
could see
played
us.
in the first half, we had a bad second half. I don't see that happening in this game. I see us coming out to fix that, motivated off of that, with an even better game plan into the second half. I think we got guys that are playing for next year. I think guys are thinking of are they coming back for next year. We'll talk about that with Sellers on another episode. But I think it's a chance to get going in the right direction, not to overlook them at all, because I really want to win these last two games. But doing everything we need to do this week to then do what we want to do the week after. Not going to get too much into that because I really want Buster to be talking about that orange Death
Yeah.
Star that's
But
lurking.
that's the bowl game at this point. Clemson's the bowl game, right? Like just beat Clemson and you
It's the
get a
South
high
Carolina Bowl.
note.
Yeah.
You get
Yeah.
beat the Palmetto Bowl, right? Like get the Palmetto Bowl
House
in, win
divided,
that.
whatever you want to call
It's
it.
good.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope it's rock bottom, but like what I mean,
Again, I think
we
we're
went to school with some
interpreting that
bad when
term.
there were some bad teams.
When I think of the term rock bottom, I think of like addiction, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to go into a program. We
All
don't have to
right.
go into a program. If
We're
anything,
addicted,
rock
so
bottom,
like,
rock bottom was before the bye week when we had to fire Shula because we said that wouldn't happen in season. That has now happened.
mm,
Um, rock bottom would have
true.
been losing 100-0 in this game with no hope of anything, no hope of beating Coastal or Clemson. We lost by 1 point to the top team in the SEC, the number three team in the nation, by 1 point. I don't care how you lost, it's 1 point. Anything could have happened at the end of the game. We could have returned something for a safety. We could have blocked a kick and returned it. We could have got in position and kicked a random field goal. We're within 1 point, right? That's better than we did with LSU or Oklahoma or Alabama. So
You can
I
just
know
swim
it
in
didn't
that
feel
comfort,
like
Mike. Just
what?
swim in it. Swim in that
I'm
comfort.
taking it all in, right? But what I would say is that's not where I'm at, but I'm fine talking about it because I do know it feels that way
Yeah.
emotionally as a fan. And
I'm
it
hoping this
does
is
a little
it.
too often nowadays with South Carolina feel that way,
I
right?
am hoping this is rock bottom. That's where I'm at. Like
I do
I want this to be rock bottom
I do
for
get that
Shane
it's a
Shane Beager's
low,
program.
but there's way too much positive for me to throw this away and say it's the bottom and
But what I mean
lose
by
or
that
go
is
lower.
so rock bottom means that you're gonna go up from here. And
Yeah,
I
again,
think
it's a
that's where I'm
low,
at. Like
it's
this
a
is the
dip,
lowest
but the
this is the
stock's going to
lowest
come back up. Yeah.
that's where I'm at. I think this
Yeah.
is the lowest the program should be. I want this to be the lowest the program is at. That's what I want because then we got
Speaking of a
going up.
low, there was someone else at A&M who hit a new low. Really, really weird scenario. We haven't really seen in college football before. We talked about the Nick Harbor touchdown. Great moment. You know, he's
Hmm.
had one or two of those this year, and I've watched those highlights on repeat. But he keeps running Bo Jackson style into the tunnel, and you think, okay, that's kind of funny, and then he turns around. Mr. Sheriff, Smokey here from A&M comes walking up the tunnel, elbows out. And I think,
Yeah.
Sam, you have some media for us once we get into my description here. And on live television, yes, bumps into Attaway and Harbor, hard shoulders, I guess because they were like going up into the tunnel and they're not supposed to go there. Whatever his reason was BS. Was coming out of a Steers took us right, and he immediately gets all blown out of shape, and you see him pointing there with his hat on and his holster ready, and it just screamed to me like we are so pissed off over what's happening now. What are you doing? Get out of here! Get out of my house now, really bad luck. But I would say ultimately seems like it resolved itself. Even Shane Beamer was impressed with the way A&M dealt with it. This sheriff was excused of his duties the rest of the day, and for my opinion, was probably paid and just got an early lunch. But at least this behavior was not rewarded or cheered or otherwise thought of in a positive way. But really weird sequence here where, I mean, it feels like after this things flipped, right? Like
He just
somehow fans use this as a way to motivate. But really,
he
really weird sequence. I don't think I've ever really seen something like this
You
before.
haven't because it's like, grown men don't act this way, right?
Right.
Like grown men with like
And let
actual
alone seeing it get
brains.
caught on camera. Like,
Yeah, yeah. What does
everyone.
he do off camera? What
Exactly.
is this guy doing off camera?
And everyone
Look at
knows
him too.
too
Like he
in any
walks.
sport,
He's
let
got
alone
small dick
football.
energy. He just walks over there. We don't have like the clip to show, but everyone who's listening
Everyone's seen the
like
clip.
saw it.
Everyone knows exactly. And it is
He's not
100%
even
no.
he's not even the officer that's assigned to the tunnel. He walks from like the halfway of the point of the field, not the 50, but like
Like the corner, like the end zone
between between
somewhere.
the
Yeah.
between the stick between the pylons, right, of each end zone from each out of bound pylon, walks over there, puts his arms out, then like walks past them, takes two steps, then turns around. Like, okay, dude, yeah, you showed him. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
Even
sure,
Attaway was
but
surprised at what was happening. He wasn't even
he's
really involved in the play, you
he's
know?
part of Texas's finest, and they'll protect him because he's a good old boy. And Nick Harbor is just a black
Yeah.
guy. So
And
I'm
Shane
sure he'll
Beamer
I'm
played
sure
it.
he'll get away with whatever he wants to get away with in
Yeah.
Texas.
And Shane Beamer played it well after basically saying, I'm glad that A&M did the right thing here, and I think that the actual quote, I appreciate them handling that the right way and sending him home. Now, some other articles I read were really
Nick
funny. They
Harbor
even
should file an
interviewed.
assault charge against him.
I
Is
was
what he
just
should
gonna.
do.
It's exactly what I was gonna say. They a local CBS Austin interviewed a criminal defense attorney on this, and he said, "quote That guy should never step on Kyle Field again." Quote Just literally tries to bulldoze these kids. And quote It's a Class C assault, and referred to the
Yeah,
trooper as a bully with a badge.
that's exactly what he is. That
Exactly.
defense attorney is 100% correct.
Yeah, exactly. I think for me it was just really crazy kismet that it actually caught and happened in the moment and was live and was on and they couldn't cut away from it. Like they're so good. I feel like I have not seen a streaker or anyone on the field really ever unless you Google it after, and they're so good about cutting away from
Yeah,
that. There was someone who jumped on the field with like or the basketball court recently. I think it was like Jokic or somebody and I saw it and I was like, oh wow, you never see that anymore. They always cut away. Somehow they had this, and that it was during this Bo Jackson moment I thought was so funny because like no one did that to Bo Jackson when he went up in the
right.
tunnel. So anyways, just kind of a really funny button on this one. I do think this game will obviously be remembered as the biggest comeback ever, one of the biggest collapses ever.
You
But
know,
this note in
little
here is
fun
always going to be the third note, I
little
think.
fun fact too about the comebacks. Mike, biggest comeback in the SEC in 20 years.
Yeah. I thought it was like ever, but 20 years makes sense.
20 years, 20
And
seasons,
I
man.
do feel like I hate to
Rock
say
bottom.
this, but A&M is officially part of the SEC now, right? They're now
Yeah.
going through gauntlets. They're almost getting into trap games. They are number three. Like it's interesting them and Ole Miss, and I didn't really think of A&M as like an SEC team yet.
They're
I
like
kind of do
officially in
now.
now. They've
Yeah,
like earned their
yeah,
stripes.
yeah, exactly. Um, so look, that's gonna put a button on this game for us. Again, I'm walking away a little more positive. We're two sides of a coin here. That's
Not
part of
me.
being a fan. We'll see how that plays out. But get into things now for this Coastal Carolina matchup. Obviously, not probably gonna be televised everywhere. 4:15 game at Billy Bryce versus Coastal Carolina. I'm guessing they still pay us for this, or not a lot because they're an in-state.
No, no, no. We pay them.
We pay them.
Yeah, we pay them. So Coastal Carolina could come away with a win after we pay them this week. I don't think that's going to happen, but here we go.
Yeah,
It's
but it's
four,
possible. That
fourth.
feels like feels rough.
We're the ones
But
on upset alert this week. 4:15 o'clock, 4:15 p.m. Yeah, you always love it when your team is playing a Saturday at 4:15. That's the premier time, right?
yeah,
At Williams Bryce.
and hit us with some of the other numbers here.
23.5 point favorites. South Carolina is. Don't
I
I
like that.
I personally don't like that, but whatever. Gamecocks 3-7, come off five straight losses. Coastal Carolina 6-4. Just had a shootout. They lost a shootout to Georgia Southern. Before that, they were on a four-game winning streak. They lost 45-40 against Georgia Southern.
Mm.
Coastal's averaging 348.4 yards per game. Not great, but they got a couple of weapons there
They've
we'll
been
talk
putting up
about in a
some
second.
points though.
Yeah, they've been putting up the points. We had what was it? They scored 40 points in four straight games.
And you talked about kind of the setup of their offense and how that's a little different, something to watch for with
Yeah,
both quarterbacks.
they've lately been running two quarterbacks, right? So they have this guy, Tad Hudson. He's kind of more of the passer, the pocket passer, prototypical, NFL prototypical guy. He's been throwing, I had his numbers up here. He's throwing for 620 yards. His numbers aren't great, but he is the more accurate quarterback. And he's
He's
been
got the
seeing
arm.
seeing a lot more. He's been seeing a lot more time the last few weeks. There's more dual threat guys, Samari Collier. He's thrown for 489 yards, but he's ran for 429. So you gotta have a plan for both these guys because they're probably gonna split they're probably gonna split snaps. It's probably
Yeah.
50-50.
Well,
But when Tad Hudson's in, they're probably gonna pass. That being said, they're running both the guys in a few times. So they could have a couple of two quarterback
I mean, it sounds
packages.
like they could even
So
have them both on the field at the same time.
that's what I'm saying. Like they're gonna have position, they're gonna have times, and then Javon Simpkins is their running back. They're gonna have situations in which both Collier and Hudson are on the field, and they're gonna be like splitting quarterbacks, right? So you have
Yeah.
like two like this.
Feels like
You
they're
don't
going
know
to
which one's
watch a
gonna
lot
have
of
it.
Vandy highlights and try to do what Vandy did.
100% correct. So we got to be ready for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Now at home, you love that. 4:15, you love that too. Doesn't look like any weather or anything else that should, creep in here. We know that's affected us a little bit this year. Yeah, be ready. Be ready for that. Watch tape on both. Swap out when you got to swap out, like when you're able to substitute and you see what's going on there, let's do that. I am a little wary of that 23 and a half. That's kind of a lot.
That is a lot.
Coastal has played us a bunch of times. They know what they're getting into. And, with Sellers not seemingly at his best, we hope that he can, straighten things out just a little bit. That being said, actually, I just want to go back to something here. I see those two names together, Tad Hudson and Samari Collier. Those don't seem like two guys that would be friends. like Tad feels like a guy who's at a frat, and Samari feels like a guy who's like going into the medical program or
They
something.
also sound like two names from the movie Anchorman or something like that, where it's like, oh, like Brick, Brick
Yeah,
Tamwell.
Tad could be
What?
Rock
Like,
Hudson, and yeah, Samari
right?
almost sounds like a model or something, like a single
Yeah.
name, Samari.
I
Um,
I'm a little concerned. Like when we talk about trap games, now I know this team is 3-7, but like everyone's just circling Clemson. When we talk about trap games, this is it. Now, if the
yeah.
team was 7-3, I would say, oh my God, we got to be worried that this is a trap game. The fact that they're 3-7, I think if this game is close or like if it's a loss, like the full season, like the entire coaching staff has lost the locker room, right? Like, uh,
Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it because you're the one who ripped the lid off rock bottom. If they lose this game, Shane Beamer's seat is on fire.
I think so too. And the only thing that saves it is Clemson winning.
Yes.
Beating Clemson, I should say.
And
The
you
only thing that saves
just
it beating
can't let it
Clemson.
get there. If you
Yeah.
let it get there, then it's probably already done.
That's the biggest concern I have is that like everyone's overlooking this game, even though they're 3-7, they're overlooking for Clemson next week, even though this team's 3-7 and they're 23.5 point favorites. I think that's the worst thing that could happen right now. They need to be like 4 point favorites for them to be
Well,
like,
look,
yo, like
whatever.
whatever,
Coach
this is
is going to
bad.
throw that out, and we know we got to play better. We just had the worst half of football maybe we've had in the second half. I'm not going to go quite that far, but it was bad, and I think he used that to motivate.
I
I
hope
think you
so.
are at home. I think you coached that again. I think Furry's got more to do. I think the defense kind of talks to the offense, and they worked that out a little bit. There are some other things in there that have been good. Vandrevius has gotten going again. I think that can be a
Yep.
thing. We did get some Dingle. Fuller's another game passed. So is it technically a trap? Yeah. Do I want to say full blown trap? No, because we're not
It's
going.
not. No, you're right.
Usually it
It's
has to be
not.
a
It's
good
not.
team, right? Going into a game that they could lose. But yeah, coming out of a game where we're the one who could trap and then being the one who's trapped, yeah, it's not a good thing. But I think this is where we need it to happen. It's for me, I'm not going to call it a must win, but for Beamer personally, I think it is.
Yeah, of course it is.
And it has to be.
I think for the
So,
players, to be honest, I think for the players too, I think there's got a little bit of degree of kind of you know, hey, like this is our team too. Like a little bit of
Yeah,
honor here. Like we
yeah,
gotta let's finish strong. This has been a
yeah.
tough season. Let's
Do
finish
we need to
strong. Let's get
cover?
ready.
No,
Let's
I don't give a shit
No,
about
you don't need to
covering.
cover. Like
I'll tell you
I'm
that. Yeah.
all that stuff's done. Like right.
I don't even know
I
where
don't even
Vegas is getting that number, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I don't even think they're gonna cover. I think it's gonna be I think Coastal's gonna cover, right? They're gonna keep it within 23 and a half, like 24 points. I
Yeah,
do.
yeah, yeah,
But
and I
just
think we both
barely.
have that.
But there's a little bit of like integrity to the team. Like each player is gonna have some integrity. Like, hey, this is about individuals now. Like you're playing for a spot, not just the next year, but you're essentially if you're unhappy in South Carolina, you're playing for a spot at these other places. You're
in
playing
the
for a
portal.
spot like, hey, I could get my NIL money at this place here if I
Mhm.
ball out the next two games here and against Clemson. So there is a little bit of motivation individually for players, obviously motivation for the coaching staff. I think it's a win. I'm just if it's a loss, then it's rock bottom. Then it's
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
rock bottom.
But let's not go there. I think we both have our picks here and we know what we're doing, so I think we're ready for that. I'll go ahead and start things off. Yeah, do I think 23 and a half is too much? Yeah. What did we say that did we have an over under? I would think it's got to
Over
be like
under, oh, good question. I believe is
something like 47.
51 and a
Ooh, that's a lot.
half. Oh,
Okay.
is it 47?
All right. So then technically I have the over, which I'm surprised about.
Oh,
But
there is no over under. There's no over under released yet. So that usually happens with teams this far out, like with
okay.
games
Well,
this
we're
far out.
gonna tab 49 and hope that we hit that Vegas style. I like 49. Um, if it was, that's what I have. I have Carolina 33, Coastal 16. I think our defense is the one most motivated because of that second half. I think they only give up max two touchdowns, and I think one is maybe late that is borderline garbage, I hope. And I think the offense gets it going. I think they do a little more on the ground to not put it on Fuller. I think this could, I mean, on Sellers, and I think this could be a big Fuller game. And I think this could solidify Fuller as our guy for next year. I don't even know that I saw a lot of Faison last week, so I don't even know what that was about. Um, but
He had a good hard run, like one good hard run one time,
yeah,
but
but it does feel like that's changed, and Fuller is now the guy, and I'm fine with that. I
yeah.
would like him to be number one next year. That'd be great. So I have 33-16. What do you got, Sammy, brother?
Updated over under very close to what you projected. It's 50 and a half right now. So 50 and
Ooh,
a half over under. I
just
also
enough.
think I don't think we're covering, but I do think that we win this game 38-17. I think the team comes out with a couple quick strikes, 14-0, then kind of gets into a little bit of a lull and then finishes strong. So I'm gonna go 38-17. Fingers crossed. Although at this point, win is a win. We're all worried about Clemson right now, right? So,
I mean, I'm not.
unfortunately.
I'm focused on this. I
Yeah.
like what I saw in that first half. I think one game at a time is what you got to do for players and coaches. A game's a game. You know, we're paying them to come in. We got to win even just for that money and for the fans and for everybody else who's coming in. For the young fans who are coming in, who've never seen us play Coastal before, they can see for the first time what we can do against what's supposed to be a lesser opponent and
Yeah.
win a game that you're supposed to win. You know,
I'm
like
hoping
that
so,
Kentucky
man.
game. We won a game we were supposed to win,
I
right?
hope it's I don't I'm hoping there's a lot of fans there. I don't think there will be a lot. But I'm
Maybe
hoping
just
there's
because
gonna be a
it's a cheap
lot.
seat and a beautiful day. It's
True,
something like
true,
that,
true,
you know.
true.
But aside from that, that's probably going to do it for us this week. But just something to note for us internally, we don't really want to celebrate this yet. We want to bust her back next week. We want to thank you guys for watching and subscribing. We did just hit 200 subscribers. Woo, 200, take your shirt off, wave
Yeah.
around your head. Yeah. So
200
we're excited
subscribers.
for that. If you haven't and you enjoy what you're seeing, like, subscribe, let us know what we did wrong. Let us know if you think this is the bottom. Let us know if you think Coastal is a trap game. We want to know. We want to know what you guys want to see and talk about. We're even interested in, at some point, maybe having a fan on the show. So we see comments and people want to engage. Get up here with us and tell us what you think. But aside from that, Sammy boy,
Yes,
that's going to be
sir.
another episode of Alumni
Game.
Cox.
Game.